But you know, when I think of culture, I look at the scripture, and don't get offended. I'm going to read it out of the Message Bible. I know some of you are King James Bibles only, but you know, I'm a master swordsman. I use a lot of different translations. I'm not a ninja, more like a Jedi because I was trained by Yoda. You know, I'm not Luke Skywalker because I'm a lot thicker. But the way the Bible brings this out kind of describes how we are as Christians. And he says, don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. And when we think about that, this is the church. That we adjust so much to culture and the way things go and you know, the newest fads and, you know, we got to do what this church is doing over there. Let's put on our programs and we've gotten away from, you know, going out and winning souls. We're trying to win souls through programs. And it's like it's caused confusion because the Bible tells us to go out and reach the world, to preach the gospel, and we're doing something completely different because we're adapting to the way the culture has called us to be. See, I rub people the wrong way because I don't go with the flow. If I get like a supervisor that's a micromanager, we clash all the time because they will try to control me, and I don't flow that way. I will do what I have to do because I know it's right, and I stay that way. I don't sway from it. And so when culture tries to tell me, or society tries to tell me, this is the way I got to be, I got to disagree with it because I got to rise up and say that is wrong. What does the Bible say? You know, look through the Word of God. I have never in my life, I've not found it. If you know where it's at, please show me. But I have not found where God says, please go out and protest. You know, stand up and disagree. I mean, what I've read in the Gospels was go out into the world and preach the gospel. Go out and reach the lost. Go out and bring them in and change them. Begin to duplicate what you are inside your church. And I sit there and I'm like, well, where have we gotten away from this? So I'm going to look at a few things. I'm going to hit on marriage. So please keep your rotten fruit to yourself and save it for later. I look chubby, but I'll dodge. May get hit a few times, but you know. When he talked about the garden, my mind started going. And it starts going because I look at Adam and Eve, and that whole thing there just bugged me. Because here she is. You have this snake talking to her, and she falls for it, and here's Dum-Dum standing there watching her. Instead of like running over there and trying to pull her away and say, God said no, he's just standing there. Well, let's see if she dies. If she goes, poof, I have more ribs. God can make another one. Why not? I mean, isn't that the way the world thinks? Well, you know, we'll live together. If she don't work out, then, you know, I'll just bump her off. Or, you know, I'll marry her. If she don't work off, we'll just get a divorce and, you know, and I could go get a new one. And even while he's married, he's out there looking around and like, whoo, look at that girl over there. You know, she just broke up with her guy. I'll go over there and console her. The mentality that's in the world has slowly made its way into the church. And the thing is like the church is starting to like settle and accept and embrace it. You know, we could have these cruddy marriages in our church and sit there and think, well, you know, this is okay. Go ahead and separate. You know, go ahead and get away from your husband or your wife. You know, it's okay. Instead of saying, you know what, we need to pray. We need to seek God. We need to get a hold of God. We need to trust God to begin to intervene and begin to heal things. I mean, marriage counseling is honestly a joke. Because all they want to do is sit there and say, well, you know what he did, and he's like, well, you know what she did, and you got two people pointing the fingers and saying, well, what do you want to do about changing who you are and being different from who you are? You know, when we started going to church in California, my wife was mean. You guys meet her and you're looking at her like, gosh, she's so sweet. What's wrong with him? She was mean. And I'd go in the prayer room and I'd pray, God, you got to change my wife. She's mean. And I had to be nice because God told me. And I prayed that. And one day God told me, he's all, no, you change. I'm like, but Lord, she's the one who's mean. She's being mean to me. He's all, no, I'm not going to change her. You change. So God started working in me and teaching me how to be a husband to my wife. You know, I read books. I'm bad at reading books. I get through the first chapter, and then that person bores me, and I put it up on the shelf, and I'll read it later. I'm so bad at it. So everything that I learned, God taught me himself. God said, this is how you're going to act. This is how you're going to approach her. This is the way you're going to be with her. And even though I would grump and gripe, God, that's not fair, I would be obedient to God because it's what he told me to do. And so I look at this, that God told him, don't eat of this fruit. You can have everything out there. You know, we're greedy. We're selfish. That's why marriage counseling's not work, because you have two selfish people not wanting to change to build a relationship. They'd rather sit there and point the finger and try to get you to side with them. And it's like, I'm sorry, I side with God. You're both wrong. Like, who in the world married you? Why would you want to get married if you're this miserable? I told one lady, I said, you know what? You picked him. It's your fault. You picked him. I don't know why you're complaining about him. You picked him. He was your choice. And then I told another lady, I said, man, you ought to just backslide and go to hell. She looked at me like, what? I'm like, well, apparently God's not working for you, so he's not real, so you might as well just backslide and go to hell. No, I'll change. All right. Then start trusting God. I know I don't have a filter. I try to watch myself. I really do. So then we get into after the fall. I mean, when I get up there, I'm going to be like, God, what kind of fruit was it that they ate? Was it really that good? You know? Did it look that appealing? I love fruit. Like, I love pineapple and watermelon. I know it don't look like it because I have the shape of a watermelon, but hey, I love fruit. But I could not imagine what this fruit looked like, to think that it would be so appealing, that it led them into, you know, I'm sure they were miserable and Satan was right there. Well, Eve, you did it. You're the reason this world's going to be miserable. You blew it. You're going to die now. Death's on your bed. Every day he was right there. So then they have kids, and you have Cain and Abel. I mean, Cain reminds me of the lazy Christian who wants the glory of God to just shine on him, but doesn't want to do what it takes to get it. And then you have Abel, who's the worker. He's willing to do what God has asked him to do and sacrifice and do everything right. So you get Cain, who gets jealous, and he kills Abel. Imagine what that mom's going through. The mind battles that are hitting her right now, that are telling her, look, because of you, your son killed your other son. You will not have that son ever again. And this began to change my view on Adam and Eve. I didn't understand what actually Eve was going through, the mental battles, the stress and everything that was pulling on her and pulling her down and, you know, and attacking her mind. because she was the cause of the fall. It was because of the fall that her son killed her other son. And sure, they had other kids. They had to replenish the earth. But that bond between that mom and that child is amazing. It's like no matter how far mom's away or the kids are away, which I don't mind, that, my wife feels it. And me, I'm like, freedom, freedom, do. She's all, but the grandkids, I'm all, they could have them too. We raised ours already. But the mental stress that was on her. In other words, in 1 Peter 3:7, he says, husbands likewise dwell with them with understanding. I'm sorry, there's no way in the world you will ever understand your wife. She thinks like a woman. She responds like a woman. And everything about her is female. And there's no way in the world you women are going to understand your husbands. He thinks like a man. And every part of him is the makeup of a man. So he's going to react like a man. So if he's not emotionally in tune with you, it's okay. I know my wife don't want a sissy, girly man. Here, honey, do my hair. But I have to be there to have this understanding of who she is inside and how she is, what she likes, how she reacts. I need to be in tune with all that to be connected and to be able to become one. He says, giving honor to the wife is the weaker vessel. In other words, with great gentleness and tact and in intelligent regard for marriage, for the marriage relationship. It's sad to sit there and listen to wives complain, my guy's a buffoon. What do you mean a buffoon? He just does the dumbest things. It's like, really? Well, have you tried this? No. It's what marriage is about. You help him understand. So he's not acting like a buffoon, and you're thinking, well, why aren't your mind reading skills working? Ooh. You're supposed to know what I think and how I think. You're supposed to know my mood. See this face? Yes, I see it daily when I get up. See, we've kind of forgot that there's a real enemy out there. We know that Eve talked to the serpent and that he deceived her. But we tend to forget the demonic forces that come against the home. That his whole goal is to tear down that home. Mark 3:25 says, a family that is divided cannot continue. This is where he starts. It's amazing how many wives get spiritually beat up in their minds by demonic forces that are in the home, manipulating the home, and the buffoons just sitting there like, do. And when she goes and says, look, I'm getting attacked. The enemy's coming against me. Oh, they're not real. There's no such thing as demons. Had a pastor tell me that one time until his house started getting attacked by the demonic forces. And it freaked him out. It's like, oh, they're real. Of course. They're everywhere. This is their world. They were kicked out to down here. So they've got that semi-limited free reign. I've talked to Christian women that have said they grew up in Christian homes, but yet the enemy came against them and pulled them out of that relationship with Christ and got them caught up into other things. One of them we actually had to pray for to get delivered from demons. Because of what she got into, she wanted to have her eyes turn green. So she actually went to a ritual where they used her as a somewhat ritually thing where demonic forces enter her. And her eyes literally turned green, like a fire green, when she got mad. When she got delivered, her eyes stayed brown. They didn't go back to being green. But the thing is this is what's going on. As he goes into the home and he starts tearing it up, he goes after the kids. She was telling us at 2 years old, demons would come into the house and start talking to her when she was a kid. She had one that would pick her up and carry her around her room and tell her he was there to protect her. They come into the home. They're there, whether we want to believe it, and they go after the mind. Like my thing in high school was I messed with people's minds. If I wanted to go after someone, I carried a switchblade, old school. I'd sit there one side of the hallway, and I'd play with it, smiling at them. Put it back, flip it again, smile at them, put it back. And they were too afraid to say anything to the teachers. And then I would point at them and tell them, I'm coming after you. I would never see these guys for months because they would go the other way. But I had a way of getting into people's minds. And this is what he does, is he gets into the head. He tried that with me this week, but my wife was praying over me. I normally don't deal with anxieties because I'm pretty good. But it was just getting to me. And she prayed over me and God broke it and gave me a peace. I mean, I wouldn't mind pizza too, but peace was good. I'll talk about food a lot. As you can tell, it's my art form. I'm really good at it. In 2 Corinthians 11:3, he says, but I fear lest somehow, as the serpent deceived Eve by the craftiness, so your minds may be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. Following Jesus is very basic, but it's so difficult for people because of the things that they hold on to and that they carry into this walk. We had a deliverance ministry when we were in California, praying for people to get delivered. And part of that deliverance was seeing God break the hold off a lot of people that were violated when they were kids and the grief that they would carry. And when we would pray for them, they would go into this like grieving mode. And it would allow God to get in there and release and change what was going on. This is that hold I'm talking about. This is that way that he comes in. And if it's allowed to be in there longer, it begins to turn into a mental illness. See, I work in a psych ward at a hospital. Okay, quit looking at me like I'm amongst my people. It's not right. And I see it daily. I've seen 5-year-olds in there wanting to kill themselves. 6 and 7. 7-year-old wanting to kill his sister and his mom and himself. We just had sisters in there that were taking mushrooms, and I mean, a lot of them go to Tylenol. I don't know why they use Tylenol. It doesn't really do much. It just jacks up your kidneys. But they do this. And they did it as a pact, and they put it on TikTok to get other people to follow them and doing this to kill themselves. That the pressure of everything that's going on in this world is just coming on to the world out there, but it's also making its way in the church. The church should not be dealing with this kind of mental, issues like this, but we do deal with it. And there's people that honestly want to end their lives because they don't know how to get past it. You know, I had the devil get in my face one day and tell me he was going to kill me. When we were pastoring in San Diego, we were dealing with the demonic forces and everything that were down there. And this demonic spirit, as I was praying, appeared, this skull in my face. And he told me, he goes, I'm going to kill you. And I laughed. I'm like, okay, I'll go to heaven. Big whoop. Isn't that what Jesus did? I'm like, fine, give it a try. And then it left. It's like, well, you changed your mind, huh? You're not that bad. I understand. But they do this. They try to get in our heads. And I'm too pissy and aggressive. Somewhat always angry. To let them come in and overtake who I am as a person. And so I have to keep that eye out, not only on myself, but on people. Because I see it subtly making its way into the hearts and into the lives of people and beginning to dominate the way they think and how they are as a person and as a Christian and limiting their access to God. So I want to look at this text. And I'm going to read it out of the Moffat translation. Moffat's old school. It's probably before a lot of your time. It's before my time. Makes me feel young. But he has a way of bringing things out that just kind of get you thinking. And I like to think when I'm awake. And so when I read it, we were sitting there praying one night, and God kept showing me the Moffat translation. And I'm like, I don't know, God, that one's kind of weird. It says things different. So I picked it up, and when I read this scripture, I was like, whoa. He says, for as the earth brings forth its growth, as seeds spring up in the garden, so before all the world will the Lord eternal bring forth their triumph and renown. When we look at this, Jesus didn't tap. You understand what I mean? He didn't tap. He didn't tap out. When the enemy got him down and it looked like he was defeated, he didn't tap out. He said, take me out because I will come back again. I will show you how great my Father is and how great I will be in him. He didn't stop right there. When he went into the garden, he had to take on every mind battle that we go through. We look at where he was sweating drops of blood and we're like, oh, the pressure of going to the cross. No, when you read that stuff and you study it out, he was dealing with depression. He was dealing with anguish. He was dealing with all these things that as humans we deal with. And he had to go in there in prayer, get on his knees and begin to seek God and get a hold of God to break these things, not only for everyone else, but for us too. So that they would not have that grip and that hold upon our minds, that we're able to pray clear and see God come in and begin to do things inside our lives and inside our homes. One thing we fail to do as men is we fail to put our wives in check. It's like, guys, you got to put your women in check. You do. Oh, did I ruffle your feathers? Oh, poor you. I'm not shedding a tear on that one. I have a checklist that I go through daily. I pick my wife up to take her to work, and I listen to her. I want to know how she is emotionally, how she is spiritually, how she is physically. So I have a checklist. My wife has a checklist on me. That when she gets around me, she's watching how I am. because we want to know if the enemy's coming in. There's times that she'll get sick and the enemy's coming in and he's causing this sickness. And she's like, I don't feel like I go to work. And God will show me it's demonic. And so I'll begin to intercede. See, we're too busy worrying about everything else instead of keeping each other in check. And this is the thing that he went to the cross for. This is the thing that he sweated blood about, was that we could help each other push through all the garbage and everything that was coming against us. And that we were there as one to be for each other, to become one. Now, my wife's not nuts like me. She has a filter, but we're one. We flow. I could text her something and she's like, I was thinking the same thing, because we flow. This is what God's trying to get into the church, because the foundation of the church is the marriages that are solid, that can come together and hold up the church and help everyone else. See, what started in the garden with the enemy talking to Eve was defeated in the other garden with Jesus talking to God. That's our renown and that's our triumph. If we don't rejoice that we serve a mighty God, and when he parades us as his victory, the world won't understand how good and how awesome our God is and the great things he could do inside our homes. Thank you.